here's the big question. You're interested in value investing and valuing and evaluating businesses on a deep level, but you don't know how, even after researching for hours, probably dozens of hours, hundreds of hours on the internet, and because nobody else shows you how to do it. This podcast has all those answers and much more about value investing and finance. My name is Jason Rivera. Welcome to Value Investing in Your Car. Hey, Jason here. First video of 2020. And today, in today's episode of Value Investing in Your Car, I'm going to tell you the top 13 books I read in 2020. Why 13? Because frankly, I couldn't pick a top 10. Before we get to all that, though, I need to remind you that this episode of Value Investing in Your Car is available via podcast for free anywhere in the world on all major podcasting platforms, SoundCloud, Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, and more. This podcast is available anywhere in the world for free, so you can listen to value investing content on the go and learn on the go. Okay, so if you follow this blog for any amount of time, you know I learn an enormous amount. Over the past however many years, I've told you that I typically read between 50 and 75 books a year. And this year I kind of want to actually catalog what I read, what I learned from both books, videos, resources like YouTube videos, stuff like that, and courses. This still doesn't count articles or individual annual reports or financial reports I read, which I read an enormous amount of those. But my list of 101 things I learned from this year, I'm going to tell you the top 13 books off of that list today. And again, 50 of that things on my 101 things I learned from this year are books that I read or listened to. So let's get to it. Before we get to the actual list, though, these books are in no particular order other than number one. Number one is there for a reason, which I'll get to later. But other than that, these books are in no particular order. They're all fantastic. They're all amazing, or I wouldn't recommend them to you. So here are the top 13 books I read this year. Number 13, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Amazing story of perseverance, persistence, keeping your mind right. This book was written by Viktor Frankl, who was a survivor, if I remember right from the book, 3 different concentration camps, Nazi concentration camps. I'm pretty sure he was in Auschwitz, pretty sure he was in Dachau, and I can't remember the name of the other one, if there was another one. Fantastic book that I'll probably I definitely will read again at some point in the future. Cannot recommend it highly enough. Like all these books on here, this is an amazing book. Number 12, Shoe Dog, a memoir by the creator of Nike by Phil Knight. Fantastic business book. Talks about his fantastic biography mixed into one is what this book is. Talks about Phil Knight's life, how he grew up, what he did as a little kid, high school, college, all that stuff. Talks about how he got into business. Talks about how he started Blue Ribbon Shoe Company, which became Nike eventually. Talks about some of the major problems they went through in terms of supply and contracts and dealing with the Japanese at that point, which is where most of, I think actually all of the major shoe companies were manufacturing their goods was in Japan. Bad deals, having to kind of work around contracts because they were about to get stabbed in the back. It's a fascinating story of not only his life, but a great business book as well. Again, he talks about the good and the bad and some of the things he was thinking and some of the mistakes they made and all that. It's really, really great. Number 11, Getting Everything You Can Out of All You've Got. 21 Ways You Can Outthink, Outperform, and Out-Earn the Competition by Jay Abraham. I read this last year and read it again this year because it's an amazing book about not only business, how to market better, how to earn clients for a lifetime, how to service your clients better, how to earn more money for your business, how to use your assets better that you already have more efficiently, different ways to use your assets, how to build better assets. Frankly, it's a marketing book, but it's a fantastic business book for any business owner, entrepreneur, manager, frankly, uh, any kind of person in or around business should read this book. That's how good it is. Number 10, Play Bigger, How Pirates, Dreamers, and Innovators Create and Dominate Markets by Al Ramadan, Dave Peterson, Christopher Lockhead, and Kevin Maney. This book is about many things. It's about how to start a business, how to grow it to a huge business, and then how to become a category king, which is the big theme of the book, creating category kings. Think of Amazon. When it started in books, it became the category king of selling books online. Then it became the category king of XYZ. Then it became the category king of pretty much everything now. How to become the dominant player, which is a category king, is essentially how to become the dominant player in your market, how to earn outsized profits, how to earn huge market shares. I think in the book it talks about 80%. Some of these companies own 80% plus market share. Google, I think, is one that they give a specific example of. They own 80+% share of the search market still to this day. So it's about competitive advantages, building moats, mental models, profitability, capital allocation, how to negotiate with people, how to deal with people while you're building a category king business, and much more. Again, like all the books on here, fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Number 9, Endurance, Shackleton's Incredible Voyage by Alfred Lansing. I've heard about this book for years, and frankly, I'd never read it because, whatever, it's a book from, I don't remember when it was originally written, but this happened in the early 1900s, 1920s, I think, where Ernest Shackleton and his crew went to discover, plant their flag, whatever it's called, on Antarctica. And it goes through their insane, frankly, trials and tribulations after their boat gets stuck in ice. How they survived, perseverance, persistence, how they survived without going crazy, how they survived without killing each other, how they survived and kept every single member of their crew alive for, I think it's more than 500 days in the Arctic. It's an insane story, great story. Um, Again, if you were learning about persistence, leadership, possibly, um, how to get through hard things, this is a fantastic book. And the story is great. I think I finished this audiobook in less than 2 days listening to it. I don't remember how long in terms of hours it was, but it was definitely, I'm pretty sure it was 2 or 3 days that I finished this book, and that's how good it was. Number 8, 12 Rules for Life by 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos by Jordan B. Peterson. I learned enormous about from Jordan Peterson this year. I've heard his name, but I didn't really follow him or know really anything about him other than his name over the last, until this year. This book is, I wouldn't say a summation of his lessons, but it's a great starting point into learning how to live better, learning how to think better, learning how to be a better person, learning how to do more, learning how to help people more, all that and much more. I'll talk about Jordan Peterson and how much I learned from him, and specifically some of the specific things I learned from him in another video. But this is a great entry point into Jordan Peterson because a lot of his stuff can get very, very dense. It's all fantastic, but it can get very, very dense. This is a very good introduction if you've never heard of Jordan Peterson before, or have heard of him but don't know what to think. Number 7, How the Mighty Fall and Why Some Companies Never Give In by Jim Collins. Book about building businesses, capital allocation, how to make decisions, better leadership, um, competitive advantages, all this kind of stuff, which you'll see from a lot of the books coming up. They mirror a lot of your favorite blog posts from this year, the most viewed blog posts, articles, videos, podcast episodes from this year. 4 of the top 5 are on capital allocation. This one, and you'll see several of the ones coming up, are about capital allocation as well. This is one of the better ones I read this year, and it's essentially a thing not to do to avoid, or it's a book, it's a guide on how not to, or how to avoid failure. A guide on how to avoid failure. If you're a massive business, or if you're growing a massive business, the signs you can kind of see to avoid major pitfalls. Very, very good. Number 6, Beyond the Core, Expand Your Market Without Abandoning Your Roots by Chris Zook. Another book on capital allocation. Competitive strategy, capital allocation is pretty much all this book is about. It's a short book. I think it's under 200 pages. But like the other Chris Zook books, there's 2 others on this list about capital allocation and these kind of topics that I will talk about. They're all short, but they all have incredible information. Where's my book? Right here. This, if you can see that, these are all the dog-eared pages and notes I took, and that's only some of them. These dog ears are on very specific things that I want to learn or remember at some point. If you want to learn about capital allocation, business strategy, growing your company, being a better business person, you need to read Beyond the Core and Chris Zook's other books that I'm going to talk about again here shortly. Number 5, Cant Hurt Me, Master Your Mind and Defy the Odds by David Goggins. This is an insane book. It's about how David Goggins goes from essentially a child who gets beat, mentally, physically abused every day of his life, of his childhood, to becoming, quote, the hardest man on earth, a Navy SEAL, Army Ranger, Air Force Pararescue. He tried out for Delta Force, which is, if you know anything about the Special Forces military world, is the top. They're even supposedly higher than Navy SEALs, which is just absolutely insane. Talks about how he changed his mindset from one of victimhood to one of personal growth and bettering himself and being better and improving every aspect of his life. It's an insanely good book. I listened to it twice this year on audiobook. And again, if you get this on audiobook, him and the author and the other like ghostwriter, I can't remember his name. They do like a mini podcast in between episodes, and they tell you some kind of behind the scenes stuff, which makes the book even crazier. So behind the scenes stories of BUDS training and SEAL training, behind the scenes story of how he went through SEAL school on 2 broken legs and made it through. It's just an absolutely incredible book on how the power of the mind and overcoming the negative things you think about when you're hurt or tired or sick or whatever. It's an insanely good book, and there's some incredibly insane stuff in it, but it'll show you how much you can push yourself more than you really think you can. Number 4, Unstoppable, Finding the Hidden Assets to Renew the Core and Fuel Profitable Growth by Chris Zook. Again, capital allocation, business strategy. This one is also similar to Getting Everything You Can Out of All You Got by Jay Abraham, because this talks about the assets you already have and finding ways to use them better, more efficiently. For example, this video will not just be a video, it'll be a podcast. It at some point will be transcribed by either my team or a group or another company and turned into blog post. Then we will turn that blog post into smaller posts on social media and LinkedIn and our Facebook group and all that kind of stuff. So there's literally 20, 30, 40 ways we will turn videos like this and our other videos into content. That is one way. Some of the content we will also turn into courses or that we will sell or give away or stuff like that. So it's just another, this book and getting everything out of all you can help you think differently about how you can use your assets. And everybody has assets. Every business has assets that you can use in multiple different ways and to increase profits, because essentially creating content is expensive and time consuming. Repurposing content is not, generally. And if you can find multiple ways to use it, not only do you get more value to clients, potential clients, readers, viewers, whatever, you also don't have to spend extra money on it, other than like turning it into a podcast, which takes a little bit of time. It's not like creating content from new. So this is essentially a book on capital allocation, business strategy, and how to increase profits. Number 3, repeatability. By James Allen and Chris Zook. Another book, Capital Allocation, Business Strategy. This one is specifically on creating systems in your business, creating systems you can repeat to continue moving without you being actually in the business every day, so you can concentrate on continually growing to higher and higher levels. Again, these books are all similar, but they're very, very nuanced in what they cover, and they're all short by Chris Zook. They're all, I'm pretty sure they're all under 200 pages. Incredibly valuable information, though, and incredibly detailed information on specific things you should think about as a business owner, entrepreneur, investor, all that kind of stuff. Number 2, Profit from the Core, A Return to Growth in Turbulent Times, updated edition by James Allen and Chris Zook. This is the 4th of their quadrilogy, I guess, of Chris Zook's quadrilogy. I don't know what he calls it, but this is another one I can show you. Look at all the dog ears in this book. Trying to get it zoomed in there. Not sure what. There we go. There's the focus. This one has even more dog ears in it. These things in these 4 books are among the things that help me advise one business in the UAE that I advised last year. One of the things that helped me take that business from $3.5 million valuation, which I told them when I met with them in March in Abu Dhabi, to getting a $6.2 million offer six months later. These things in these 4 books, among other things that I've learned over the years, and outside of this kind of reading, are things that specifically help me increase that company's value by $2.7 million in 6 months. These are enormously impactful books. Everything on this list is impactful, but these 4 specifically, since I've spent an enormous amount of time talking about capital allocation and will continue doing so, and have a business where I advise companies on capital allocation, these 4 books are absolutely phenomenal. Again, I'd throw in How the Mighty Fall into that as well. But these 4 by Chris Zook are absolutely amazing if you want to learn more about capital allocation. Highly recommend them. I built what I call Rivera Holdings business system out of these 5 books, including the How the Mighty Fall and my other knowledge of capital allocation, covering 147 points as of this point on things you need to think about at capital allocation. That's how important these books are. Different leverage points to think about when it comes to capital allocation and running your business, growing profits, cutting costs, all that kind of stuff. 147 different points to think about and strategize about from these books and other resources that I've learned from on capital allocation over the years. Again, I've literally started an entire business out of this, these books and my other learnings on the capital allocation. That's how fantastic they are. If you want to learn anything about capital allocation, highly recommend them. Highly. Again, they're pretty dense, very detailed, pretty dense, and the information isn't always kind of easy to understand, but you need to take your time and go through it. If you have any questions about any of them, let me know. I love talking about this kind of stuff, and maybe I'll make some videos on specific things if you have questions about it. Highly recommend these books. Okay, now to number one. Relentless, From Good to Great to Unstoppable by Tim S. Grover. This guy was a trainer for Michael Jordan for 15 years, something like that. Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, Charles Barkley, some of the greats in NBA history, and now outside of NBA, he trains people outside of the NBA now. I think mainly in baseball. One of the world's greatest trainers talks about how to essentially become great, become relentless. And this is the only book I've read 6 times in 1 year. I read it 6 times this year. The audiobook, fantastic. The reader's fantastic. The writing's fantastic. Everything about this book is fantastic. But the number one reason it's number one is because if you're anything like me, you've kind of, you're a workaholic, you love working, you love improving, you're constantly improving, you're never really satisfied to a true degree. You're always looking for ways to improve pretty much everything, and you always think you should be doing something to improve. This book explains kind of my mindset better to me than I've actually ever thought about it in my own head. And that's the reason it's the number one book of this year, also because I read it 6 times, the only book I've ever done that with. But it explains a lot about what the mindset I've had for pretty much ever my entire life, but I've never really could kind of put a finger on exactly what it was. This book explains a lot about my mindset, possibly your mindset if you're here as well on a regular basis and want to continually improve and get better and become great. This book, again, he trained Michael Jordan, the best basketball player ever, and he saw what it, and Kobe Bryant, probably top 3, top 5 best basketball player ever, and he knows what it takes to become great, and typically it starts with hard work, but there's a lot more to it than just hard work. So highly recommend this book. Number one book of the year that I read. Again, I read this book 6 times in 1 year. If you want this entire list that I keep peeking at of the 101 things I learned from, which includes all 50 books, the 32 videos, individual videos, which are typically 30 minutes to 2.5 hours long, the courses I learned from, everything I learned from this year outside of individual articles and financial reports, you can do so for free. Click the link below. It'll take you, and I'll send you the PDF copy of all the books and resources I learned from this year. Because again, if you're anything like me, you always are looking for more things to learn from, always looking for ways to improve. I want to give you this list for free so you can do that. So, and so you can learn exactly what I've been learning from, maybe get you some ideas of things you want to learn, or things you've thought about learning, or things people you've never heard of, all that kind of stuff. You can get that for free at the link below. And I hope you enjoyed this. I'd love to hear your best books of the year as well, because again, I'm always looking for more books to read. Here's a partial example of some of the books I bought just in Christmas. I've read these 2 top ones before. I haven't read the other ones. I rebought these because I got rid of them years ago, but these 2 are fantastic. And I bought, I think, 3 or 4 other books on Kindle and Audible that I can't even show you physically. So if you have any books that you read this year that you thought were great, I'd love to hear them. Love to hear comments, questions, concerns, anything in the comments below. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like, love, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you're notified every time we release a new video, and release new videos all the time. And remember, you can listen to this as a podcast for free on all major podcasting platforms as well. If you want the free resource, 101 things I learned from this year, it's down below. You can see everything I learned from this year and learn from that kind of stuff as well if you want to. or if you're just curious, look for more books, more resources to get better and improve yourself. Um, you can get it for that reason as well. Again, completely for free. All you have to do is put in your email address. So I think first name and email address, if I remember correctly. That's it. Until next time, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.